Welcome to this week's Artist on Art. I am your host, Nada Milkovich, and I have a wonderful show for you all today. This is the show where I like to interview artists and talk about what's behind their art, their philosophies, and how's that impressed their practice. And I have such great pleasure to be interviewing a very dear friend, Revital Carroll. Revital is an amazing dancer. She does Odissi dancer. You're an amazing athlete. You're an amazing Revital, and I met when she was teaching yoga up in Boulder Creek. And,
right.
And you are an artist. It's a tremendous pleasure to be able to talk with you and about your art, and specifically about your Shakti Bhakti Ensemble.
Yes, thank you, Nada, for inviting me. It is my pleasure to be here with you and to talk about one of my greatest passions, which is Odissi Dance, teaching, performing, and living it.
Odissi Dance. Okay, so Odissi, tell us, where's that from?
Sure. Odissi Dance is one of the 8 classical dances of India. It is from southeast India, from the state of Orissa. It has roots that extend thousands of years back into ancient India. The roots are intertwined with temple dance, with martial arts, with yoga. It shows the spiritual philosophy of ancient India in its core.
And tell us a little bit about, like, if we were looking at India right now, if I have that in my mind's eye, and it's kind of in a diamond shape a little bit,
right?
Where would I see Odissi area?
The region is south of Calcutta, north of Chennai. It's on the Bay of Bengal. It's right on the coast. It's the state directly underneath the state of Bengal, so just not too far even from Bangladesh. And to the south is Andhra Pradesh, and then Tamil Nadu. To the west is also Andhra Pradesh, and Bihar is to the north.
So it's kind of a southeastern part.
Southeast, yes. Southeast
that
India.
Kind of quadrant.
And it has very much, the culture has the influence of the ocean, the beach culture.
And you went to India and studied Odissi dance.
That's
directly
correct.
from. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I went to India over 20 years ago. I went to India first in 91, and my first and foremost aspiration back then was to study yoga and meditation. I was fascinated by the spiritual culture of India, but my love of dance was already there since childhood. So while I was in India, I encountered the dance form, the classical dance form. I never heard of it or knew anything about it before I came to India, but once I was there, already lived there for a couple of years, I came across the dance form, and I just really pretty much instantly fell in love with it, not really knowing why, but once I started practicing the dance, I realized how closely it was to yoga, how much of a yoga practice, in fact, it was, and how beautifully it connected my more feminine and sensual self with my more austere and spiritual self into one practice.
Oh. There you go, folks. Odissi dance, as described by Revital Carroll. She has been practicing Odissi dance for 20 years.
Yeah, more or less. I started back then, but then I had a long break once I got pregnant with my daughter, Yashodhara. I was up in the mountains. I was really pretty much removed from the culture of Orissa. I had her in the Himalayas, and then I moved to the U.S., and for a few years, I didn't do anything with Odissi dance. By some kind of a miracle, magic, karma, encountered one of the dancers of the same lineage of Odissi dance from Orissa in Santa Cruz. She was actually going to UC Santa Cruz, and she was teaching in Santa Cruz, and so I took some of her classes, and I immediately got reconnected and knew I had to go back to India, and this is when I really took the art form into a different level. I went back to Orissa and continued to go back to Orissa every couple of years, and I have teachers from Orissa who come visit us here and teach us here as well.
And how long have you been teaching now, Odissi dance?
I've been teaching in Santa Cruz area for 4 years. And before that, I was teaching for another 4 or 5 years while I was living in Arizona. So about nine years, something like that.
And you've been doing your yoga practice the whole time?
Yes.
Yeah.
The yoga practice is integrated into my conditioning, into the package of what it means for me to be an Odissi dancer.
So Shakti Bhakti, tell us about that.
Yeah, so Shakti Bhakti is the name of my dance company and of my dance business, I should say. Shakti is the word for the goddess, or the sort of ultimate divine mother in Indian culture. It also means energy, actually, in Sanskrit. And then bhakti is the word for devotion, for love, for surrender. So I chose the name Shakti Bhakti because I feel in order to be an Odissi dancer, you are surrendering to cultivating and expressing your divine self. And it's really, the group evolved out of my students. So I started teaching here in Santa Cruz 4 years ago, and I now have about a dozen very serious students. 10 of them will be performing at the Lotus Moon show this Saturday, May 31st, at the Loudon Nelson Auditorium. And it really just organically evolved. We have more and more festivals and events who ask us to perform at their events, and so we are a dance company as well as a dance school.
We're going to listen to a little music here for just a second, do an interlude. We'll be back with Revital Carroll. A little Odissi music in the background, and you're listening to KZSC Santa Cruz. This is Artist on Art. This week I'm speaking with Revital Carroll about her art, form, practice, Shakti Bhakti Ensemble, her dance ensemble, all stemming from Odissi Dance and the region of Odissi. Revital, for someone who is listening who's never heard of Odissi Dance, can you describe to us how it would look to somebody to see you perform
Sure.
and your ensemble?
Yeah. Yes, of course, it's a visual art, so it's important to understand what it looks like. Our lower body, with our feet, we stamp the earth. So there's a lot of power and strength in the lower body. We also squat down. We have two main positions. One position is called chauka, which means square. It has more masculine quality to it. And the other position, it's called tribangi, which means three bands. The body is bent in such a shape that is asymmetric and more round and sort of highlights the figure of the feminine. And our upper body has a lot of subtle movements, subtle torso movement, a lot of hand gestures, a lot of subtle facial expressions. Our eyes are choreographed, our neck is choreographed. There's a lot of subtle joint motion. It's very graceful and fluid in the upper body, and very strong and powerful in the lower body.
So I had the wonderful pleasure of taking one of your workshops, and I was so sore the next day. And I do a lot of dance. I do samba, I do a fast-moving dance, belly dance, and there's something about Odissi dance that, as you were saying, combines the yoga practice. So there's so much strength involved with the dance. It looks deceivingly simple when you watch it.
Right.
But it's not. And you are moving your head and your neck in one position, and your eyes in another position, and your shoulders in another position. And
that's generally we when we train, we generally divide the movements into 5 layers. It's kind of like a 5-story building. The first layer is the footwork. Well, actually, the canvas is the position. So first you learn the different positions. We have several different positions. We have 36 different feet positions, and then there's footwork patterns and rhythms. There's lots of different kind of rhythms in Oriya music, in the classical music, and so the feet is one layer. Then there is the torso movement, the hands movement, the neck movement, and the eye movement. And they all have different patterns, and they not necessarily move together. So it can get a little bit complex at first. But it is a very codified classical art. There's sort of rhyme and reason for everything, and it all comes together into a whole. There is an energetic patterning behind it that is designed to open the pelvis, to cultivate Kundalini Shakti, which is basically our primal life force at the base of our spine in our pelvis, and then to pull it out of the pelvis into the heart center so we can cultivate our affinity and our connection to the universe around us. So the communication comes from the heart, and then from the heart the energy moves into the spiritual centers to connect with our divine nature and to be able to express those sentiments, emotional sentiments, to our audience.
Holy moly, that is so big. Revital, it's incredible. It's truly a beautiful dance to watch and to think and talk about. It's amazing. Let's talk a little bit more about Shakti Bhakti, your dance ensemble, which is grounded in Odissi dance practice that you're...
Absolutely. All of my dancers are very dedicated. They don't really last as long if they're not dedicated. It's really beautiful to see their process. They train with me once or twice or 3 times a week, but most of them, especially before a performance, train daily on their own. It is a community for us. It's a family affair. We all very connected. My students get together to practice on their own and just to hang out. We do different rituals and different events together, and we united by our love and passion for expressing our artistic self, our creativity in art form that is very much grounded in a spiritual practice.
Fabulous. If all of you are wondering, I want to see that, you should come out Saturday, May 31st. There's going to be 2 shows at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And where do you want to go? Loudon Nelson Auditorium. That's at 301 Center Street in Santa Cruz. At Loudon Nelson this Saturday, May 31st, you'll have performances at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And if you're interested in tickets, you can go to lotusmoon.brownpapertickets.com. And Lotus Moon is the name of the show that Shakti Bhakti Ensemble will be performing this Saturday. And you can get the ticket prices there at lotusmoon.brownpapertickets.com. If you'd like to see more pictures and be able to visualize what Revital is talking about, you can go to shaktibhakti.com. Shakti is SHAKTIBHAKTI.com. You also have risinginternational.org. Tell us about that, Revital.
Yeah, Rising International, it's a local organization that was created to support women in poor areas, women in need, mostly in developing countries, as well as women in need in Santa Cruz County and in the Greater Bay Area. And they do wonderful work. They connect with different communities around the world and help the women within those communities to develop the art, the artisan work that they already know into a sellable product. And then they buy these products from them, and they train women here in Santa Cruz County to sell this product in house parties. So that's why they support the women in communities around the world, as well as the women here, to rise above poverty and make a living for themselves and have a dignified life in wherever they live.
Excellent.
And so a portion of the show proceeds are going to go to Rising International, and they are also going to display the pop-up global marketplace at the show, or I should say at a room adjunct to the Loudon Nelson Auditorium, right there at the Loudon Nelson Community Center. They'll have a display of their beautiful artisan goods from all over the world for sale.
Can you name us a couple of the places that we might be able to see?
The places that they have arts from?
Yeah.
Yes, they have it from all over. They definitely have some artwork from India and from Nepal, and a lot of work from Africa, baskets and aprons and scarves and jewelry and little gifts. Mostly what I remember is a lot from Africa, from India, from Nepal, Afghanistan, perhaps Pakistan as well, I think. Yeah.
How long have you been working with Rising International?
I've been in touch and in a connection with Rising International for about a year now. We have done a few projects together.
That's wonderful. And tell us about Lotus Moon. That's the name of the show that your ensemble will be performing. You are also performing.
Yes, I am performing with them as well. Yes, we're going to have some group compositions. We're going to have a couple of original compositions that I created, as well as traditional choreographies that I composed into group formation. And we'll have, I will also perform a solo performance of, it's titled Jaya Mahesha, and it's the story of Shiva. And we're going to have an amazing duet by two of my most talented students, Cheryl Thompson and Melanie Liu. And we're also going to have original video that's going to be showing at the show. Video that I created that is educational. It's kind of like an artistic documentary about Odissi Dance and about Shakti Bhakti Ensemble and about the path of Odissi Dance and behind the scenes of Odissi Dance roots and culture and practice.
Okay, so Revital, we're saved one of the best aspects for last. Tell us about the costumes. What would people get to see when they see Shakti Bhakti Ensemble?
Yeah, costuming is all handmade by artisans from Orissa. The clothing is made out of a handloom sari, silk sari, with traditional patterns. It's very colorful and beautiful. And then the jewelry is all made out of silver. It's a lot of filigree, silver filigree, which is also traditional to a region in Orissa, the region of Cuttack. It's one of the counties in Orissa. The headpiece is made out of reeds, plants that grow by the shore in Puri, which is another area of Orissa. So it's also made by a local artisan that make these beautiful temple-like shaped head pieces. They're really quite magnificent. And we have what we call gungurus, which are the ankle bells on our ankles, and we have a red paint on our feet and hands to symbolize those energy centers. The makeup is quite elaborate. It's all resembling the origin of this dance form as temple art. And it's quite elaborate to just see us before we even start dancing in our costuming. And it's a beautiful thing because we bring into the stage the culture of this dance form, not just the dance, but everything that informed the dance is coming with us on stage and represent the history of the dance beyond the present presentation of it.
Wow, you take my breath away, Revital Carroll, talking about Lotus Moon. That's the performance happening this Saturday, May 31st at Loudon Nelson Auditorium. There are 2 showtimes, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. For your tickets, go to lotusmoon.brownpapertickets.com. And the type of dance is Odissi Dance, and the performers will be from the Shakti Bhakti Dance Ensemble. If you'd like to get more information, you can go to shaktibhakti.com, and there it's not just it's a multimedia presentation. You'll be able to go shopping, which I know I love to do, finding things from the Rising International, an organization sponsoring women artisans around the world. You'll be able to see video created by Revital about Odissi Dance, and you'll be able to see the performances. Revital, thank you so much for coming up to KZSC and talking to us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I'm going to play a little more of this Odissi music. So stay tuned, everybody. I've got Dr. Paul Lee coming up next, and enjoy.